Thanks for joining us for this episode of The Predicted King, a Citylight Council Bluffs Christmas podcast. We'll be reading together the book of Isaiah and connected New Testament passages to see Jesus as Emmanuel, the predicted King.
Isaiah chapter 40, verses 1 through 5. Comfort, comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and cry to her that her warfare is ended, that her iniquity is pardoned, that she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins. A voice cries, "In the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be lifted up, and every mountain and hill be made low. The uneven ground shall become level, and the rough places a plain. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken."
What if Erick would have shouted those verses? Screamed, yelled, stomped his feet in anger, pointed his finger at all of us as though we could see it, and totally yelled those 5 verses at us. I think we'd all hear it differently. We'd be concerned for Erick, might wonder why a hobbit got so mad, and the amazing prophecy of comfort wouldn't have been comforting at all. Shouting, screaming, yelling these words doesn't fit. It doesn't feel right. Why? Because verse 2 here in our passage says, "Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and cry to her." It's a tender cry, a comforting word, a gentle appeal, gracious report. This prediction of the voice comes with soft tenderness, words meant to soothe and rejoice. After decades of oppression, God's people now can tenderly walk away from the warfare. Comfort. After decades of punishment, God's people now know their sin has been dealt with. Comfort. So it only makes sense that the more we listen to this passage being read, the more we feel tenderness, comfort, relief, grace, and joy. And maybe that's what Zechariah felt. This voice's dad, that's maybe what Zechariah felt for all those months that he was silenced by the angel. Maybe Zechariah read these words over and over again. Maybe Zechariah marveled that his baby boy would be this voice, the one who prepares the way for the Lord. And maybe Zechariah began to feel the tenderness, the comfort, the relief, grace, and joy. Let's see what happens in our next passage today, connecting the prediction of Isaiah 40 to the birth of the voice.
Luke 1, verses 57 through 80. Now the time came for Elizabeth to give birth, and she bore a son. And her neighbors and relatives heard that the Lord had shown great mercy to her, and they rejoiced with her. And on the 8th day they came to circumcise the child. And they would have called him Zechariah after his father. But his mother answered, "No, he shall be called John." And they said to her, "None of your relatives is called by this name." And they made signs to his father, inquiring what he wanted him to be called. And he asked for a writing tablet and wrote, "His name is John." And they all wondered. And immediately his mouth was opened and his tongue loosed, and he spoke, blessing God. And fear came on all the neighbors. And all these things were talked about through all the hill country of Judea. And all who heard them laid them up in their hearts, saying, "What then will this child be?" For the hand of the Lord was with him. And his father Zechariah was filled with the Holy Spirit and prophesied, saying, "Blessed be the Lord of Israel, for he has visited and redeemed his people, and has raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David, as he spoke by the mouth of his holy prophets from of old, that we should be saved from our enemies and from the hand of all who hate us, to show the mercy promised to our fathers, and to remember his holy covenant. The oath that he swore to our father Abraham to grant us that we, being delivered from the hand of our enemies, might serve him without fear, in holiness and righteousness before him in all our days. And you, child, will be called the prophet of the Most High, for you will go before the Lord to prepare his ways, to give knowledge of salvation to his people and the forgiveness of their sins, because of the tender mercy of our God, whereby the sunrise shall visit us from on high, to give light to those who sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the way of peace. And the child grew and became strong in spirit, and he was in the wilderness until the day of his public appearance to Israel.
When this baby is born, it's a special event, right? There's nothing boring or normal or routine about this birth. The mom is old, she's aged. Everyone celebrates. The news of the birth of this baby spread all throughout the hill country of Judea. And all who heard the news marveled, saying, "What then will this child be?" For the hand of the Lord was with him. We know that this was the birth of the voice predicted in Isaiah 40, but the hillside of Judea only knew this was the birth of someone special. But maybe Zechariah knew more. In fact, Zechariah's prophecy here piggybacks on Isaiah's prophecy from Isaiah 40. Clearly, Zechariah had begun to connect Isaiah's dots, piecing together a picture, an image. Isaiah calls the voice tender. Zechariah says his baby boy is born because of the tender mercy of God. Isaiah predicts this voice will pronounce the end of the iniquity of God's people. Zechariah says his baby boy will teach people about the forgiveness of their sins. Isaiah predicts the voice will announce the way of the Lord. Zechariah says his child will go before the Lord to prepare his ways. Are you connecting the dots too? The dots that Isaiah predicted are being connected by Zechariah, and they all point to the voice. And the voice is tenderly inviting us to behold the baby born in a manger, the baby who was the Lord, the baby who would show the whole world the very glory of God.